Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you are all doing good today. For our class today, we are, as yesterday I promised you, that today we are just taking the properties of the data type that we took it yesterday. So each of them, they have different properties, and these properties helping us to manage the storage and also make things easier and more appropriate and more accurate. So let's start. We have the database or the table that we made it yesterday. You remember that we create this database and we create this table. So yeah, we are on the same page. So let's do it. We are going here to the design and taking from the very beginning, and let's see what we have the first field and what we have on this field and what we can do about this field. The very beginning, I'm sure that you noticed there's a key on the first field, but the other, they don't have this key on. So what is this key is doing and why we need this key? This key is called primary key. Here is the sign, and this is how we are adding this part or this property to our data or our field. The primary key is something necessary and it's important for us to use whenever we have sort of relation or we want to have a unique data. So that's why by default, when we first create our table, there was an ID and the ID has this primary key, because we now in general, if you are looking at the IDs globally, for example, if you are looking at your passport number is unique in the whole entire world. So if you are checking for the same passport number that you have, you will never find anyone else, because this is global policy for the passport to have everybody's passport number unique and not be duplicated for any security reason. And if you are looking at your ID number, your ID number is unique in your country. Within Iraq, you cannot find anybody else having the same Iraqi ID as you have. And this is also something related to the country, because the ID is just like for Iraqi people. So that's why the ID here also is unique and the number is not being repeated anywhere else. So how we can make this happen? After we put this key, we see here something will add to our data or to our field, which is the index. So here is indexed. So already we gave an index to this field. And the index is about what? Is about not accepting duplicate. Yes for no duplicate. So you see it's written yes for what? For no duplicate. And also we have yes for duplicate. Okay. We will talk about this because in some case we need index but with accepting duplicate. And this is a rare case, but we will take this as well when we were going deeper into access. So here we are saying no duplicate because we want the ID to be unique. In general, as we said, ID is unique. So that's why we have an auto number. And if we are looking here, the value is being increased incrementally, like increasing the number, incrementing, like adding each time one to the data and so on. If we want to have something else, for example, if we want to have it as a code, so what we will do, we will make it a random number. For example, the first number cannot be 1. it can be anything else. So when we are taking the random number, we will see that the number is not incrementing one by one. It will be some random value. So let's just keep it this way and save this to see how it will be. For example, the first record, the name is Aram. You see the number? We have a minus or a negative value, which is still a number, and it's an auto number. So we don't know. It's just randomly create this value for us. So this is how we are dealing with the random number. So let's go to the second record. We see here we are adding another name. This is Aram. This is Ras. We see the number is changed. We have a totally different number. So on, if we are adding the things, it's gonna be the same way that we see it right now. So let's just try something else in the design. So we know that we have these two. Also, we have a format that we don't want to give any format. If you want to give a specific format to this field, you can do this specific field. You can just specify the format. You want a specific text, let's say font style, a specific text color, or something like this. So you could just add this format if you want. This is something like you can do it because you already took Word and Excel in your, like Word and PowerPoint in your first cohort. So that's why it's not a big deal. You know how to do it. Also, what we have here, we have caption. Caption is, this is something like a label. For example, when you are buying a new shirt, you see there's a label on it and written that this is manufactured by company, let's say HM and or LC Waukee, anything like those brand which is exist here. So you can just see this. And also it's just written where what's the fabric that it's made from and how to wash it. These things which is like, this is a label. So if you want, you can just like cut it off and not use it because it's not part of your t-shirt. It's just something extra to your t-shirt. So the caption is the same thing. If you are leaving it blank or if you are writing anything, it's not gonna make anything. So we can write just random auto number. It's not making any difference for us, and everything is fine. Now we are moving to what? We are moving to text align. Text align in general, and save this. If we are coming here, we see the text align is like normally is written some sort of in the right align. So if I want to change it, I'm just coming here and make it a center, then save. I see it here right now is in the center. So this is up to you if you want to change it or you want to keep it in general. Now moving to what? Moving to the other data type, which is a short text. In short text, I see here there's some information. For example, now it's written that you can add 255 character here, but I know the name is not never been 255 character, like the longest name. Let's say it's just maximum 20 characters. So why I have to have 255 characters? So I will just say, just keep it simple and make it 10 characters. I don't want more. Also about the format, and now we are moving to what? We are moving to input mask. And guys, like, by the way, if you are looking at the format, the task, the input mask, the caption, the default value, validation rule, validation text, these are repeated in numbers, currency, date and time, and so on. So you will see it in most of the parts of our data. So if we have something that we need to enter it within the keyboard, so you have these being repeated: the format, the input mask, the caption, the default value, validation rule, and validation text. And also we have like required and index. These are repeated in all of them. Look at them. We see all these here in the number. We see them in the time, the date and time. We see them. So that's why we can just take one of them and try it on the other. For example, I'm just using here, let's say I'm using, for the date, I'm using input mask. Randomly, I'm just trying to apply the input mask on what? On the date. So how I will apply the input mask, and what this input mask is doing for me? Input mask is just limiting the data entry or the person who's doing data entry to stick to a specific format that I'm asking him or her to do. So I'm limiting this person to enter the data according to the format that I'm picking. This is the work of input mask. Please do not forget this duty of input mask, because we have something else which is called validation rule. So later we will talk about validation rule, and you will know what is the difference between these two, because this is really important for you to know it from the very beginning. So when we are talking about the input mask, we are coming here. Yeah, I have to save. Yes, I did. I have no problem. So what we have here, you know why the access or the file what were asking me and making sure that I want to make sure that I want to make the change in the input mask, because here, if you are coming to this part, we already have fields that we didn't fill it yet, but it says that it's been filled in advance. So what I will do, I will just delete these fields. Now it's empty. So if I'm going back here and if I want to add anything, it won't ask me about anything specifically, because now there's no data to be worried about and telling me, okay, be careful that you enter data. No, there's no data. I'm in the very beginning. So yes, I'm coming here and I will make decision about what I want to input here. Because I'm in the date and time, so it gave me the format of day and time. So let's see which one I will pick, because I'm talking about start date. So I will pick the format of the day that I want to enter. So here, if I want to apply this, I can try it here. I see that this format, I will have two case for 2 digits, which is the date or the day or number of day. And I have 3 cases here. It means that I have to enter 3 characters here, which is the first character from each month. Then at the end, I have 2 place. And this is also means that I have 2 digits for the year. So this is for the month. This is for the day. And the last one is for the year. So I could just pick this one and apply it on the day. So what I will do, I will just do next. Here it shows me how it's gonna be the input mask and what is the separator. Then again, I could just come here and make sure what I have. Again, making next and finish. So now I applied an input mask. I will save it and then go back here. If I want to add data, you see, I've been obliged to enter the data as it is showing here. Okay, so now if I came here, if I want to add data, so what I will do, I will have the name. So I don't want to write anything because later on I have to again delete it to have the data. So now I see that I have to write in the format that it gives me. So I being obliged to enter the data according to this format that is exist. Perfect. Now let's move to what? Let's move to default value. When we have default value means that the information that being showing even while I didn't enter anything. So for example, if you are going to the datasheet view, you see here the age, there is a default value, and also for salary, there is a default value, and also here there is a default value. So these, the rest, there is no any value here. That's why there is no default. Also for the yes, no, by default, we pick no. So if we are going back here, we see in the number, what is the default value is 0. I could just delete it. I don't want to have anything there. Save. When you are going to currency, also there's a default value. I will just delete it. Let's go back and save. Let's go back here. Now I see there is nothing written here because we already deleted the default value. So you can add default value if you want. It's up to you, and you are the decision maker to do it, or yes or not, without any issue. So let's go back to the design. Now, if we are talking about what? If you are talking about the validation rule. For validation rule, it is totally different with the input mask. For the input mask, we said that we want to give a specific format. We want the person who is entering data, enter the data according to this specific format and limit the person to do it this way. But here, when we are talking about validation rule, the validation rule, we have to make a certain criteria by using the logic functions to make the data enterer or the person who is entering data to follow a certain rule, to obey a certain rule. For example, we have age, and we are not accepting anybody which is less than 18 and more than 35. So what we will do, we will say here in the validation rule, we will say 18 greater than or equal. So here we give the first decision or the first condition to this specific field. If we want to add more to this criteria, let's just keep it simple like this. Control S. Where I put a comma, there is no comma. No, I didn't have any comma. Do I have any comma here? No. I just said 18 greater than or equal. So let's just try it. This is really weird. So I want us to have it greater than or equal to 18. Let's try it. So what we gave? Greater than or equal. Yeah. If we put 18, it will accept. But if we put 17, it won't accept what I gave because this is not allowed. Well, let's say if I gave 36, it's going to be accepted. But if I give another rule here, let's just delete it. Every time I have to delete this because I don't want to have a headache. Then, if you want to give another condition here, like put it in between. So what we could do, you could say, I want my data to be like, let's go here. Let's take the operations and then comparison in between. First expression is going to be, let's say, greater than and equal 18, and less than and equal 35. Or you can just change the place of this two. I have no problem. I could just change the place, Control X. First expression, Control V. X, V, something like this, and also the first expression can be like this. And then the other expression can be like that. Greater than equal 18. So we just pick between, because we want to have the data between two operator, something like this, and then we'll say, okay, now we see we wrote it this way, and Control S. If we are coming back here, and if you want to enter 17, what I wrote, how it accepting 17. Less than this and equal to that. So the issue why it's not accepting. Yes, it won't accept. And if you wrote 16, it's weird. Yes. We gave two conditions. First, be greater than and equal to 35. No, less than and equal to 35. And here, greater than and equal to 18. So it's just taking the first one, but ignoring the second one. It's quite weird. Accepting the first one, but not accepting the second one. What's wrong? It's totally fine. There's no issue at all here. Control S. Let's try it this way. Okay, yeah. Thank you, Sabnar. I did a mistake here, which is enter 18. Yes. the problem that I wrote it differently, so that's why I just put the 18 behind, so it was not checking the number, it was just checking it in general. So yeah, now we put the number in the front, and it will accept the data according to the information that we require for. And now we have what? We have a validation text. We have a validation text that we could enter here to see what is the requirement. So we say, please enter age between 18 and 35. Save. This is a text, just a text. You don't need anything else to add it. So if here we are writing 38, straight, it gave us this message, please enter age between 18 and 35. So I have to write 35 and it works. So that's why we are using the validation rule to give a specific role to the data. But if we are using the validation rule for our date and time, we have something totally different. Here, for the validation rule, what we have to do, we have to first give the field name. For example, what we have start day, yeah, closing it, and then we are giving specific information to our data. For example, I will say I want this data to be greater than, I could say now, something like this, which is from today. Data that I enter, it has to be greater than today, because today it won't be included. Or we can just give a date, but how to give a date? Between hashtag, we are saying 1st June, January 1st, January 2020. Okay, we are saying that this day has to be greater than the specific day that we gave. We are saying Control S. Yes, we want exactly, because as you know, we have a field here not been filled it. So now we can write, because we gave like 1st January 2020. So let's enter 31st December 2019, or just write 19. Straight is just telling us that this is wrong. Why? Because we said that it has to be greater than 1st of January 2020. So we have to change this to, let's say 20. Accept it without any problem. So now, now what we can do, we can add here, please enter date after 1st January 2020. Control S. Now, if we are going back here, and if you want to make change here, we can say, let's say 1st 10th, Jan 18. It won't accept because we cannot take 1st January 18. We have to change this 18 to 20 and voila, it just take it without any problem. Great. What else we have here? We have the required. If you want your field be required and not accepting, first let's go back here. Yes. Place required. Where is it? Yeah. If I want to make this one required, I will say yes and save. Yes. Let's go back here. I can leave any of the other fields blank except this guy. If I want to leave it blank, it won't go. Why? Because we have something here is required and I have to fill it. It won't let me go, or I have to fill this field as soon as possible. So what I will do, I will just write something like 33 and then move on straight. You see, after I add 33, then it gives me the new record. So that's why if you have any of these fields required, you just change the name of the field from no, or the value of the field from no to yes, and then voila, it just do these things for you as you wished for. Now let's try about the number. Which type of value we want to have here? This is also depend on the information that you are entering. Normally it just take long integer. Why? Because it calculate that maybe you have really a long number and you want to have some sort of space for it to be really big space. But because we know that we have 8, so maximum the age is going to be 100. So why we have to have such a great space and took such a big space for small information? So what we will do, we will just make it to integer. Then what we have decimal number, and we know the age. We cannot say, okay, how old are you? Let's say I'm 35.6, like I'm 35 years old and 6 months. No, there is no such a thing. You are just saying I'm 35 until you are just step into the next year, then you will say, okay, I'm 36. So if you said I'm 35 and 6 months, so no, it means that you are 36. So why you are just saying like this? So we don't have any decimal number here. So what we will say, we don't have any decimal number, so make it 0. So now we have 0, but when we are going to currency, we have it auto, or we can here give it, let's say 2 digits. It's fine. I just want 2 digits in decimal number. But for age, I know the age is not something that have sort of limitation, like or have some sort of decimal number. No, we have like a certain age and a specific or in a whole number, so we don't need any decimal number here. Great. Now what we are trying to do here in the date and time, within the date and time, because we came back to the decimal number to just show you that we have this for the number and the currency, to show you that we have this sort of information. Okay, in the currency, what else we have? We have the format, which is totally different than the others. So for the format, if I'm coming here, I have a specific type of format or specific type of currency that it exists. But if I want to use a different currency, like I want to use pound. So how I will use pound? I'll just put hashtag pound sign, then, sorry, yeah, and then save it. Yes, go back here in the salary. If I wrote anything, for example, 100, I see is here showing the power, the pound sign without any problem. So if I want to change it to Iraqi dinar, again, I will just write IQD, or if you want to write it in IQD, not IDQ, IQD, and then save. Now going back here, it just gave me IQD. So I will say I have one, something like this. So as you see here, we have the IQD sign. So it means that this is the salary in IQD, in Iraqi dinar. So if you want to change, you could just make change according to what you have without any problem, just by using hashtag and the sign that is exists. Also, I could just write dinar Iraqi. Yes, I can just like this. So let's go back here. You see here is written Dal Ain is mean dinar Iraqi. So I could just write it in any language that I want without any problem. And it's just simple like this. Well, let's move to what, because we talk about a line here, I don't need to talk about them every time. Let's go back to the date and time. So while I'm on the date and time, I see something really weird. While I'm here, if I'm going to the date, starting date, because I gave this format, so let's just move this format here. I want to show you something else. Control S. Let's go back here. Yeah, you see here we have this calendar. If you want to show this calendar, you are allowed to show it from here. If you want to remove it, I will just remove it simple like this. Never. Now I don't see any calendar in this area, so that's why I'm not obliged to follow the calendar to enter my date, especially if it's date of birth, because you know, date of birth, for example, I'm 83, so going back all these years is going to be a disaster. So that's why I just keep it simple, let the data entry to choose. But if you have something, for example, in the current year, for example, in 2021, it's fine, just keep the calendar and you will help the person who's doing data entry without any problem, especially if you gave a specific format or an input mask. So just keep it. From here, you are just showing date picker. So the person is just coming here and pick the data without any problem. Now, if we are going to yes, no, we see in the format here, there's some different format. For example, we said, are you graduate totally, and or let's say, I'm sorry, are you saying for yes, if I ask you, are you graduated, you'll say on. What does it mean? What does it mean on? You have to say yes instead of saying on. But if I ask you, for example, something related to electricity, you are saying off and on. Here you have on and off. Not while somebody asking you, are you graduated, you are saying on. No, this is an appropriate answer. So that's why we have 3 different options here according to the question that you are asking. For example, if you are preparing a questionnaire and you want to know the true false about some opinion, so you'll just like put true false. If you have yes, no for some sort of information, you will use just yes, no. If you have on and off for some sort of information, you are just using on and off. So that's why these options is depend on the situation that you are using for. And the default value, I told you while we are here, see, while we are here, we see it is no option being used as a default value. If I change it to no, or just like why I have to waste my time. If I just change it to yes, so here you see by default the next one is just filled it with the information that we want. So let's try. We said this is required, so I have to fill it. Then the next one is just coming already. So here the default value helps you if you want to get the information. For example, it's about the graduation, and I'm sure that this group of people that I'm entering the data, majority of them are graduated, so I just leave it like active, yes. So if I have someone which is not graduated, I will just remove it. That's easier for me instead of each time I have to check this and check that and check this and check that. So if it be vice versa, if I know that the group that I'm dealing with, majority of them are non-graduated, so I will just keep it in none. Then if there's few of them graduated, I will just sort check those fews. Easy like this. So why I have to waste time? Now, if we are looking at this one here, the name, and we want to check the lookup value, we see the lookup value is blank. Why? Because we didn't give lookup value to this. But if you remember, yesterday we give lookup value for gender to just have the information according to the list that I have. So if I'm going to lookup value or the lookup section, I see here the lookup tab. I see here there is a bunch of information written down there. And if I want, I could just make change and do it accordingly. So for example, if I didn't want to have this others, I just remove it and I will say none. So we do Control S, and then going back here in the gender, instead of having others, I have none. Or if I want to change these two letters, I could just say F and M. So now going back here and checking this part, I see it's like F and M and none. So also I can just change the style of my data. I could just make it as list. I could just make it as a combo. I could just make it as a text box. About the source type, again, I could just make it as a field list. I could just keep it as a value list. And each of them depend on the data that you have and the sort of information that you want to be shown where you are dealing with the data. So these things are really simple and easy. I can just make change in the size of the field according to the data that I have. For example, if I have some sort of information which is need really like long cell, so I will just change the size of my row and so on. So this is like how we are dealing with this information. And if we are just going here, we see for the only object, because we are not entering any sort of data by ourselves, so we see that the properties is just so few and there's nothing much than what we are getting. And also, if we are going to the link, we see that there's some sort of different information here that allowing the Unicode and also allowing the virulence. No, yes, no, I can't just make it yes, I can't just make it no. Append only yes or no. It's up to you. You can't just do it according to your information. As well as for the attachment, we have no much of information. And also for calculation, we don't have much of information. It's all depend on the field or the data type that we have. And so you are just dealing with the information according to the data type and also according to the properties of this data type. You are just making change. Normally, like the things which is really important is what you are doing with the text, what you are doing with the number, and the currency and the date and time. So these really important to know and to have information about them, because sometimes I will ask you in the exam that I don't want to show data picker. So I don't want to have the calendar next to my cell. So you know that there you have to just pick the no, never for the date picker. Also, may I will ask, I want a specific currency type, and I will give you the information in the Excel sheet. So you see in the Excel sheet, there's dinar hierarchy, like hierarchy dinar. So, but when you are coming here, you will just get confused because there is nothing written hierarchy dinar, or I will put pound sign, so you can't see any pound sign here. So how to deal with this? And also when it is coming to the date, I will just give a specific type of date to be entered, and I want you to just stick to this one. So I will just ask you to put some sort of this kind of data type, but you cannot see it here when you are going to the date and you are going to the format. You can't see anything here, such a way that is being written. And I'm obliging you to do it this way, or sometime I will just give you something in the text and I will oblige you to use some sort of, yes, I know. So I'm asking you to use some sort of these input masks. I will just oblige you, and if I'm written it in the Excel sheet. So normally I'm giving you an Excel sheet, and I want you to convert this Excel sheet to access table, and then later on apply the required information on them. So yeah, it's like simple like this. We are just dealing with the information this way. So this is what we have for today. So I will leave you with Mom Sabnar, and she will explain to you more, and she will have questions from you. So please answer her and try your best to be active in her session as much as possible, because you will get mark on these activities. Thank you so much and have a great evening.